Hello, I'm Shieldwall100 and welcome to my games room once again. It's a bit of a nicer day outside, the sun has come out, the cats are exploring the back garden a little bit, and I've been afforded the opportunity to play through a little game of Onus, the game I did an unboxing for on my channel reasonably recently. And yeah, I've been learning the rules, played a couple of games against people down my local games club. This game's quite fun. I do rather enjoy. And so yeah, I'm actually sort of trialing out the solo play rules today, because they do have them. I'm sort of bastardizing them a little bit to fit in with a game from one of the campaign packs. This will be Republican Roman over here versus Carthage in one of my favourite kind of set piece battles of all wargaming time, the Battle of the Trebia. With Hannibal has crossed the Alps and is invading Rome, and Rome has sent a punitive expedition, well, a punitive force, just to swat him aside like the upstart he is. And yes, they've just crossed a river, because I've got the terrain and fortresses expansion. I just put that on for show, to show where the Roman backline is. The river doesn't have any effect on the game whatsoever, but I like it because it's fun. It gives me a chance to show off my bits. Yeah, but yeah, so we've got a Republican Roman force over here of you can see there's cavalry on each wing. I've kind of gone for two rather historical theming sort of setups. Velites at the front to do the skirmishing, some hastarte, and then some principes in the second line. So you know, it's not realistically necessarily a massively effective way to fight in Onus, but I'm just trying to have a bit of fun, show off the rules a little bit, you know, get myself still used to it. Hannibal's army is what I will be commanding against the Romans. It's a somewhat smaller force, but hopefully better led. Nominally better led. I've got Hispanic cavalry on each flank. Don't worry about the stats or anything like that. This is just a sort of a get to know the idea of how things work. Got some Balearic slingers, Lusitanian infantry skirmishing up front, and then a few infantry units here. Some Carthaginian type spearmen and some mixed Spanish Peninsula infantry there. Okay, Iberian Peninsula, should I say? And that's it. You know, we're going to try and sucker them along, and we're using roughly the rules from for the battle of the same name. I'm using Hannibal, of course, and the Romans have an unnamed. Well, their general wasn't well known enough to get his own card, basically, so they're using the basic dude. But the way the rules work for solo play is that they get their cards and whatnot for, you know, for tactics and events and whatnot given to them as we go anyway, so the size of their tactics hand really doesn't make much difference. But that's it, we're going to get on now. I'm just going to give you the broad strokes really. I'm not going to get too granular into the rules, otherwise we could be here forever. But yeah, the rules, I think there's how to play demonstration videos if you really get into this on you know, Draco Ideas, his own, you know, YouTube channel, so you can go nuts there. Anyway, I am going to just deal myself a hand of cards, and I'll report back as and when we got stuff worth saying. All right, back in a minute. Okay, well, the Romans seized the initiative and have activated first. They're looking to swat aside the smaller Carthaginian army. Right, the way the game works in broad strokes in terms of command and control is that each player, if you're playing with a player each, has a hand of these Onus cards. I can't remember exactly what they're called on top of my head because that's how my memory is. But these things cover tactics and events that you can do, and I've got a hand of 8 of them because Hannibal is a good general who has 8 cards. That's his leadership value, and he has 8 cards. For AI players, when you're playing solo, you don't actually have this potentially baffling amount of cards to look through on their behalf. What you do is you have the deck over here. I've had to split it in two because the deck protectors make them a little bit slippery, but you have your deck of the overall cards over here, and you draw 3 at the beginning of the solo player's turn. This actually turned out to be quite a good one to demonstrate. So as you can see, here are the 3 I drew for the Romans this time. And I can see my cat has joined us. How brilliant. I thought she was meant to be outside, never mind. Anyway, right, so we're looking at the top halves of the cards for the purposes of activating units and doing things in the activation phase. We got 3 different things here, and you can see the little icons in the bottom right of the top section. So you got little footprints there, little heart, and another footprint. So generally speaking, the ones with footprints on are to do with setting units to be activated with this turn. And with these 3 cards, the AI, the Romans will be using 2 of them, which are most applicable. And they first of all, their first card for the turn will be one with the footprints to activate units if they've got them to choose, and they go with the one that activates the most units. So this one, for example, skirmish, you can activate 1 unit. Nice, simple. So they could pick one of their units to activate with this turn. The other card that they have, which is of this sort of ilk, shall we say, is mobilization. You can activate as many units as your general's leadership value. So obviously no fleeing units. So this is their general has a leadership value of 6. Shoo Lily. So yeah, there you go. 6 is the number of cards they'd normally have in their hand, so 6 cards it is. Right, so obviously this one activates more units. That's the one they will be using. Okay, so their first card of the 3 will be this one for 6 units, and then we look at the other one. They'll they then have prioritization of what other icons come up, as it would normally be one with the heart on before another one with the footsteps. So recover officers, a unit recovers its officers, remove the no officer marker. Well, no units have got that yet, so this is a bit redundant, so it goes. Not using it. So they will actually use skirmish as well. So they can activate the 6 from their commander and 1 extra, basically. And using the simple, go away, Lily, thank you very much. Honestly, this cat chooses the best moments. We've got, I put tokens. You see the little cross swords? These tokens indicate which units are going to be activating this time, and using the fairly simple chart, it's usually a bit of common sense, so, since you're solo playing, no one can argue with you. The 2 Roman cavalry are activating, the full line of skirmishers, who would otherwise be blocking the units behind, are also going, and then we're going with the middle 2 Hastati as well. Okay, they're the units which are going to be activated this turn. I just spent a while telling you how this works. In reality, it took me less than a minute really to work it out. I spent a bit of time getting the counters out more than actually choosing which mod units choosing which cards to use. So there we go. Really, it's clearly just that simple. And then what I do is I'll be moving them forward, and then I'll be checking to see if anyone can shoot, which I expect they won't be because we're a goodly distance away from each other. And then I'll be moving on to other parts of the turn and potentially my go. And I'll let you know where I get to in just a sec. Well, actually, I just have finished the Roman first turn, actually, because there was no shooting and obviously no combat. Just thought I'd give you an idea as to how the board looks at the end of this first Roman turn. They've moved up all their activated units. The point is that I wanted to say that you have a little an AI sort of attitude that will be calculated according to the leadership of the general and the sort of the circumstances of the game. And the Romans here are trying to advance to destroy my army, so they have kind of a bit of confidence to approach me. They're not on the defensive, so but not suicidally so. So their cavalry, who could have rushed forward and outstripped them, are actually opting to stay in line with the foremost rank of their units, who are moving up to javelin me with the units behind. But in future turns, they may well be, if depending upon their what the state of play is, they may well be bringing up their more rearward units rather than going forwards with the units they've got. You see, but yeah, it's going to be down to how I act as well in my activation as well, which we're going to get to in just a moment. Just completed my Carthaginian first activation phase, and I actually played 1 card from my hand, mobilization, the same as the Romans got just now. And the fact is, though, I can do it better than they can because my general, Hannibal, just pick him up, has a leadership of 8, as you can see there at the far right of his little card. Okay, so the general gist is you see the sword and the shield. Those are the sort of the combat values, attack and defense respectively. He gives the unit his with +1/+1 to all of those, gives them +1 leadership, which is a little flag. The little well, the head with the 3 next to it is his area of influence. You can see the little aura under there. So he has sort of like an aura of influence of 3, which ties into some effects on cards and whatnot. And finally, the leadership is the his number of cards he can have in his hand. He also has a little. You see where it says there's his general sort of like ability, kind of like a specific one for him. So yeah, that's generally how leaders work in this. And you represent where he is by popping the counter on him just there. That's why I popped him with some Carthaginian spearman types. Anyway, he played mobilization. He has a leadership of 8 and I have 8 units, so I can activate pretty much everyone in my army. Okay, and they're all going to do their thing, wander forwards, and I think we're going to get some shooting this turn at the very least once I think about it, and I'll show you how it goes. Okay, I've activated my units and done all the movement. Basically, you do movement first, then shooting, and then skirmishers get to move again, then we do close combats. It's a fairly standard wargaming kind of convention for who moves first, etc, etc. It's who you move can change each turn. That's where the activation cards come in. But yeah, like I said, I activated my entire army, and the units in the battle line sort of move forwards. The skirmishers have moved forward to do some skirmishing. I've worked at, you see these little counters on here with a little 1DU or UD on there. Those are like little movement units left, so skirmishers get to move again with unused movement. So I've moved these forward 1, they have 2 remaining, so I've got these counters on to remind me that they can do that once they've had their shot. It's quite fun. Skirmishers are pretty nimble in this, as they should be. But as you can see, also my cavalry have charged home on each flank against the Roman their Roman equivalents. Also, one of the interesting things about this game is that you can see how, if I get close, you see the little white lines on the units. Those are like the little segments determining which proportion of the unit has fought, and each unit's got like 4 of them along the front, as you can tell. When the units don't quite line up, as neither of these charges have, if you're charging, you can lap around with spare bits of your board of your unit. So as you can see here, 3 of the 4 front segments of my Hispanic cavalry here have made contact and therefore are fighting. The remaining one on the far left doesn't, so it has lapped around with that little counter there and actually counts as hitting the flank of the equites. You don't always get to do this. Sometimes you just neatly line up with the front, but and it does also of course expose the side of my Hispanic cavalry to the equites next turn if they activate, if they're still there once we've done a round of combat. So yeah, and being hit in the flank will reduce the equites defense a bit, so I'm hoping that will pay dividends for me. I'm looking for a short sharp victory over the Roman horsemen. Okay, and while I've got this take ongoing, I'm going to do the first bit of shooting. Okay, the Lusitani infantry here, if you look at the little the icons, the numbers should I say, next to the little bow and arrow icon, that represents the unit's shooting factor. It's all on the cards, which makes it quite cool. It's a 3 with a 2 in brackets. The 2 in brackets is the range, as you can which is on these little measuring sticks here. So you can see you've got 0, half, 1, etc. So 2 means it can shoot 2 away. And so yeah, we're going to shoot at these guys just here for reasons, and because they're in range. They're over half range, so I only get 2 dice to roll with the javelin barrage. If you're within half range, you get 4 dice. That's how range bands work in this. It's not modifiers, it's just the number of dice you get. The 3 represents the accuracy and the strength of the shot. So 3 is not bad. And right, what we're going to do is I'm going to flip around these velites so you can see their stat line. I'll be rolling the 3 of the javelin men's accuracy and strength will be compared to the defense values, which is the shield values there, you see. Okay, so 6 and 4 for the velites accordingly. Okay, and yeah, that's basically how it is. I would normally take each of my rolls to attack. I add these in order to hit. I roll the accuracy, which is 3. Add the die roll to it, and if I beat, 6, then with the total score, then they're hit. And then I do the same thing with the 4 there, which represents the velites armor or toughness. I can't remember the exact terminology. And again, if those succeed, I convert those hits to damage, and they get marked on the velites unit card. It's super simple. I'm probably making it sound 800 times harder. But first of all, we have random events, which is where we take the top card of the events deck over here, and we see, let's look at the blue bit, and we look to see if it affects shooting. So the loser of the combat with a morale check with -2. Nope, it doesn't affect shooting. You see those icons, they represent close combat only, or defensive close combat. So yeah, the random event doesn't affect this shooting attack. Sometimes it does. It can be very annoying, trust me. Now for solo play, you take 2 cards off the top, because remember the AI doesn't have its own hand, and it will choose one of these 2 cards which applies and play that one. Okay, so it does that for every single combat. So although it doesn't have a hand of cards, because I can play cards too, I have to use them from my command hand. The AI gets 2 cards every time. So let's see what they get. Testudo, which is a close combat defensive ability, and Combined Attack, which is a close combat attacking card. And so neither of these affect either. So as it is, I know for a fact that I'm not playing anything. Not going to waste my cards just yet. But yeah, I'm going to just play with. So no events have any effect. There's no modifiers. So I get my 2 dice. I roll them and add 3 for my accuracy. I'm looking to score 6 or more after the modifiers. So that is a 6 and a 6. Lovely. Okay, so those are 2 hits. Now I roll them again, and I add 3 again. Remember, strength, and I'm looking to get 4 more afterwards. So anything but 1s really. Whoa! And I did it on camera, so you can't claim I cheated. So that's 2 hits on these poor unfortunate Roman velites. So just trying to, sorry, camera work's going to go a bit crazy for a second. There we are, 2 wounds on the velite, and what we're going to do is, or velites, sorry for the pronunciation guys, right, the Romans have taken damage from shooting, which means they need a leadership, a morale check. As you can see, the little flag there is 7. So what I do is I roll 1 dice, I add the number of hits they've just taken, which is 2, and that means if that's greater than their leadership, then they're in a bit of trouble. 6. Oh my god, well, why isn't everything coming up good for me today? What happens is, so 6 plus 2 for the 2 damage is 8. That exceeds the leadership of the Roman velites. They are what is called broken, which gives them minuses to a whole bunch of their abilities there. So that is pretty much about as good a shooting round as I could possibly have got for these first javelins. What an auspicious start to my solo career here. And yeah, that's how shooting works, and to a large degree that's how close combat works as well. Just obviously different cards you can play. I'll be doing pretty much the same thing with the close combats as well. I'm not going to bore you to death by showing you all the shooting and stuff, so I'm just going to do these Balearic slingers who've got a bit more range against their counterparts up here, and we'll come back for the combat, okay? Right, well, the Balearic slingers did 2 damage to their counterparts over here. Didn't cause the velites, these velites, to fail their morale either, though. Incidentally, this broken symbol gives them a minus on their various abilities. Also means that if they fail another morale check, they will break and run away. So just to give you an idea as to how the morale system works. Having done that, we went to the skirmishers phase, where they could basically fall back, and as you can see, the Lusitani infantry have now fallen back a little bit to square off directly against these velites who they just broke. The Balearic slingers who opened fire, they've moved back. They had a bit more movement to do, so they've managed to scooch a little bit further away. I think they're trying to part the ways to make way for the heavier infantry behind, something the Romans will have to consider too at some point. Right, we're going to go on to the close combats now, as you've got 2 charges. So we're just going to start on this one just to focus in. These early takes will be a bit longer because I'm going to go into a little bit more detail as to how the game works to help people out. So what happened was we've got this combat here. I've lapped around a little bit with my Hispanic cavalry who have charged the Roman equites. I don't think you get a huge bonus for charging in this, to be perfectly honest. I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, the basic factors are such that, as you can see, I've got 4/5 to hit and strength for my close combat there. That will be factored against the... let's flip them. Let's just flip them. The Roman cavalry equivalents. Defense values of 7, because they're more dodge. They're better at dodging than Velites, better at keeping out of harm's way, but their armor's pretty soft as well. Roman cavalry at this time wasn't like the be-all and end-all by any means, so their armor's only 4. The Roman attacking back is 4/4, but against my defensive is 6/6. Work out the odds if you really want to, but that's not what we're here for today. Other factors, though, to consider, though, are, you see these two little... what's the word? These two symbols here. The spear in the... on my Hispanic cavalry means that I'm predominantly armed with spears, which gives me +1 on each of these values against cavalry. Lovely jubbly, that's what I'm fighting. The one in orange means I'm better against infantry on the charge, so that doesn't apply here. For the Romans' sake, they've also got that's the lunge ability there. The orange one gives them +1 against infantry, not applicable. You see this green one, that's a special formation that they've adopted. They had from the beginning of the game. It gives them +1 on their combat until such time as they use it. It represents them going to combat in a kind of a wedge formation. Okay, I'm not going to flip them back round because I can read upside down. But yeah, so there you go. We'll work out the factors as we go. It's really a lot simpler when you do it than it is to me to just tell you about it. Anyway, the random event that was played from the hand, that came up, from the deck, is take cover before receiving a ranged attack. Oh, then that doesn't apply. As you can see, it's not a ranged attack, so neither side gets the benefit of that one. The 2 cards for the solo AI came up as both of these, so they pick the one which is better for them. Wind changes is the ranged attack fails, so again it's a ranged attack ability, so we ain't doing that one. But this one is ranged support, so this is going to get pretty complicated. Hurrah! Just what we want. If the attacker and defender have a friendly unit that can shoot at their opponent, it will shoot even if it is in combat. So, unfortunately, we do. These thankfully broken now. Velites can throw javelins at my cavalry. Fortunately, my Lusitani infantry are in range to javelin these dudes as well. Only just. Actually, am I? No, I'm not. I'm not at all. Sorry, I got there right. So these Velites will javelin me. Damn it. That's representing the card played from the fictional hand of my opponent. Fortunately, these guys are not particularly awesome, and I am going to claim a little bit of cover for their own cavalry in combat. I know it's marginal, but I'm going to do it. Right. So they're over half range because they're more than one movement, more than one measuring unit away. So they're only going to get the 2 dice. Okay. Their strength is normally 3, however they're broken, so it goes down to 2, and because of the inconvenience of their cavalry just a little bit being in the way, they're going to go down to 1. Okay, so they're looking for a dice +1 to get more than 6, so they need 6s effectively with the before the modifier, and they do not get it. So nothing comes from their supporting fire. Phew. Right, let's get on to the actual fight. Okay. Now then, let's see what's going to come up. I can now play cards, sorry, I forgot to say that. I also got the opportunity to play cards, and I did actually set one aside. I'm going to play harangue. Troops receive the officer's harangue. Urgh. There must be an officer. So yeah, my officer is not dead. There's a specific condition that leads to that. That means they get +2/+2 on their attack, and and +1 armor and in this combat. So yeah. So their defense and their attack both get a buff. So here we go. Because I really want to flatten these guys. So I'll do my attacks first. So I am on 4/5. My roll to hit, my to hit roll starts off with a dice +4, plus another 1 for being spearman. So I'm on 5 to hit. My harangue gives me an extra 2, as you can see there on the first +2. So 5, 6, 7, and I've got 4 dice because I have 1, 2, 3, 4 segments in combat with them. Okay, so I get, let's see, so what was it, 4, 7, yeah. So I'm on, so my attack value is 7 against their defensive, their dodging ability, so to speak, of 7. So I roll the dice. I technically speaking can't fail, except you always fail on a 1. Always succeed on a 6, always fail on a 1. So let's roll these dice. So there's always a 1. Freaking always. So that's 3 hits. Hurrah! Now I roll to see if I can convert these to actual damage. So this is where I use a second set of things. So I start on 5, I go up to 6, 7, 8 for harangue. His armor's only 4, so basically again anything but 1s. Please don't do it, please don't do it, please don't do it. Oh, thank goodness. So that's 3 lovely hits, okay? Combat's considered to be simultaneous. Oh, he'd even be on lower than that because he's been attacked in the flank as well, so that's not fun. Yes, so I do believe that's how that works. Right, so we're going to do his attacks back. Now, interestingly, he's only got 3 in combat with me, but the way it works is the defender rolls as many dice as the attacker does, so he gets 4. It's a nice way to sort of like even things out a bit. So so his attack value is 4 if you read it upside down. So to hit me is 4. My dodging ability is 6. Okay. However, I've harangued myself to give myself +1, so I'm on 7, which equals out his formation. So so he's on 5 plus the dice, needing to get 7s. So he needs 3s or more. Yeah, 3s or more to get more than 7, that is. So yeah, of course he's hit with all of them. Hoorah, hoorah, hoorah. And it's the same again, actually. So 3s or more. Oh, come on, Lee, don't lose your first combat on camera. Oh, thank God. Right, so yeah, so these 2 do not. These 2 do. So I take 2 damage. I hope you're following this. Oh, sorry, I'm just fiddling around with counters in my hand at the moment and it's causing me jip. Yeah, so just trying to get the ones with actual damage out in them as opposed to anything else. I'll have to do some fiddling around off camera. So, right, I win the combat. Hoorah! Yeah. So there you go. So I scored 3, he scored 2. Now I believe he takes a morale check. So right, so what was I going to say? His morale is 7, he's taken 3 damage. After the round of combat, his formation disappears anyway, regardless, because they get flattened out, I guess. And yeah, it's now time for him to fail his morale check. 4 plus 3 is 7. Boo, he hasn't failed his morale. I was kind of hoping that he would. So yeah, that's that. He doesn't break, but he is taking damage, and taking 3 points of damage will reduce his stats in the next round of combat there. So yeah, that's basically how the combat works. I'm going to do the other combat on the other side, and I'll report back in just a bit. Nasty stuff. Finish this combat over here, and as you can see, both of us took 4 damage. Me, because I got the lucky furious attack card come through randomly, which affects the attacker in the melee, give me a healthy bonus. But for the Roman side, they managed to draw 2, and the one they went with was luck, which gave them double the number of dice to hit. And yes, they got 4 hits through. So yeah, both of us took a massive amount of damage. We both took a morale check. Thankfully, I passed mine, but they failed theirs, meaning they're broken. And I should mention, I forgot something. Because the Romans on this flank were outflanked, they actually failed their morale check by the requisite 1. So both the Roman cavalry are actually are broken, ready to... broken doesn't mean running away in this. I keep thinking, in my mind, broken means you're gone. But no, broken just means you're sort of fragmented. Your unit's lost its cohesion. They are 1 failed morale check away from actually fleeing. Okay, broken's not such a debilitating status in this. It's bad, and you're teetering, but you're not gone. Anyway, yeah, that's basically that for the combats. That was a nasty one for me because I can't afford to lose units willy-nilly like the Romans can a bit more. I was hoping to get some relatively clean victories over their cavalry, but hasn't quite been. But that said, I'm well on the way to taking their cavalry out altogether. But that basically concludes my turn, everything apart from drawing a singular card from here and adding it to my hand. So yeah, I've played one to activate units. I played one from my hand to affect combats, and I've drawn one back. So you can see your hand starts to get a little bit sparse, a little bit quick, especially if you go a bit trigger happy on affecting the combats, you know, or even like trying to activate lots of units by playing multiple cards. So yeah, you can really easily shed your deck. If I hadn't played any cards to activate units in the activation phase, I can draw 3 cards instead of just the 1. Okay, so you know, if you decide to take a lull and collect yourself, you can top up your cards quite quickly, but of course, would you want to hand the initiative to your opponent? And that's one of the things I like about this game. There's a little bit interplay. Do you keep spending your cards trying to maintain that little bit of an advantage over your opponent, or do you take the necessary you know, lull to your action to try and restock your ability to actually activate your units and coordinate your army, etc. Anyway, I pick up the various activation markers, and then we're going to go back to the Romans. They're going to continue their turn according to their AI, and yeah, that's basically, well, this is basically how the game works. I'm going to continue on showing you the game to its conclusion, but I'm not going to go gritty on which cards are drawn, etc., except for maybe some really interesting little happenstances, okay? But yeah, I'm just going to play out the turns and tell you how it goes so we can speed this game through. I'm sure you're getting pretty bored of me talking about, and I moved this one half an inch to the left, etc. And yeah, we're going to see. I'm just going to show you how this game pans out. I'm going to see if the AI can, you know, take the acid test, okay? Roman turn 2 has just started, and interesting, at the beginning of turn 2, the Carthaginian ambush strikes, and I've got a unit of Numidian cavalry who've just appeared at this part of the battlefield, so that will hopefully give me a little bit of an edge going forwards. This did actually happen in the Battle of the Trebia, and yeah, quite fun. The Romans have drawn their cards, and I've done their movement and everything. I'll just show you what happened. First of all, they were lucky enough to draw full mobilization, so you can see you can activate all your units, so that's why they've all been able to go. Rather annoying when your opponent gets that. But they also played Lost Orders, which made me discard my entire hand and redraw my orders, which is annoying because I had kind of a few plans in mind. Now I have to rethink again on the fly. Yeah, their movement is mainly, well, their backline's all soldiered forwards. The Hastarte move a little bit quicker than the Principes, but you know, hopefully it won't be too much of an issue for them. They're trying to get forward into javelin range. Their attitude took a little bit of a knock from having 3 units being broken in the last turn, but nonetheless they're still trying to move forwards to engage me generally. They're still confident enough. Yeah, but they've got to let their infantry do their thing anyway. The most interesting part of it is that the cavalry were activated, which enables them to lap around in the same way that I did when I charged. If their cavalry units hadn't been activated, they would have stayed as is, but now they lap around, giving me the penalties to my defense and my morale for my, you know, just in case. Hopefully it won't be too much of an issue because I've already damaged them enough, but we'll see. And their skirmishers, as you can see, are sort of pouring forward into the line. They're not quite damaged enough yet to really want to withdraw, but they're advancing into closer ranges to shower me with javelins. And I'm going to do that in just a moment. I'm not going to go blow by blow through exactly which cards were drawn and dice were rolled. I'll just come back with some results, okay? Just checking in to show you the results of the shooting. My Lusitani infantry here took 1 point of damage from the javelins of the not broken anymore Velites. I forgot to say that they should take a morale check at the beginning of their turn if they're not in combat, and if they pass it when they're activated, they take it. If they pass it, they take it off. If they had failed, they keep being broken, but it doesn't really, you know, affect anything else. Yeah, and unfortunately, the Velites in the centre didn't do anything against my stout Iberian infantry, but the Velites over here got some vengeance on the Balearic slingers, hitting with 3 attacks and breaking them, so that's not fun. We're just going to go to the combats for the turn. Incidentally, combats do happen regardless of whether the units involved are activated or not. You can't get away with the units just downing tools for a little while because you accidentally on purpose didn't activate them, but yeah, there we go. Going to come back in a sec. Right, okay, end of the second Roman turn, and yeah, their skirmishers withdrew a little bit in the middle, apart from these ones who used all their movement to get forward to throw javelins. The combats, there's for some reason a dust storm kicked up over here on my left, and meant it was a lot harder for anyone to damage anyone, but it was enough for me to see off the evil Roman cavalry just there, and even get myself a little hero counter. You see the H? Little H there, that's a hero into the bargain. He'll give me a bonus for the rest of the game to my to my defense and my leadership there, so that's quite useful. On the other side, it was a bit more of a bloodbath. I did actually wipe out the Roman cavalry over here, but not before they caused a point of damage to my Hispanic cavalry and killed the officers. Okay, that is a real pain. That's a big debuff to this Hispanic cavalry unit. They're probably going to have to try to withdraw out of harm's way for the time being, at least, just to stop me from losing this game, because it's done on the number of units killed overall, basically, in terms of your unit strength. And yeah, my army is smaller than theirs, so can't afford to take too much damage. But yeah, that's the Roman second turn. It's going to go to my second turn, and I can start activating things, including my Numidian reinforcements over there, who are quite bloody good. Well, as you can see, the jaws of my ambush are starting to close. Let's hope they close properly. I actually played 2 cards in this phase, in the activation phase. I've done the movement as well. I played By the Gods, activate all my units. In addition, oh dear, come on, focus in, Lee. They get +1 lead morale this turn, which really did help, because it helped me to rally my Balearic slingers, who from being broken to ordinary. And I also played Bad Omens, which will affect the Romans for the rest of this for the rest of my turn. All enemy units have -2 leadership for any check, so I'm hoping to cause a bit of disruption with my various shenanigans this turn. I've brought up the Lusitani infantry to javelin these velites again. The Balearic slingers have sidled out of the way. My cavalry fell back behind them, and I'm going to be opening fire, so to speak. Bit wrong nomenclature for that, but yeah, they're going to be opening up on these velites here. My battle line has moved forwards. The Iberian infantry have charged the velites who strayed too close, and finally my Numidian cavalry have actually swept into the fleeing Roman equites just there, going to polish them off. Sorry, one last thing, my Hispanic cavalry have turned sideways on to the advancing Romans, backed off a little bit first. They're not here to get showered in javelins themselves before they get a chance to do anything. They're just keeping a respectful distance, perhaps, until the battle lines have closed a little bit more. Yeah, just getting to the end of my Carthaginian turn 2, and a desperately disappointing one, really, due to all the event cards basically either stopping me from shooting or giving abilities to take cover and dodge and hide from shooting, to the Numidian cavalry scaring away the equites before combat could be taken, and yes, and some bad dice rolls down here with these velites at unstable ground, causing both units to be broken anyway. It was nothing really happened, so there went my amazingly. I was really hoping to get some good good morale tests on them with that Bad Omens result, but yeah, the Bad Omens were for me, not for the enemy. That's annoying. Anyway, yeah, so we're stuck into combat. In fact, I'm getting the worst. I mean, their skirmishers are broken my battle line. How annoying is that? And yeah, well, we're going to end up. I'm sure that these Roman cavalry will not rally, but nonetheless, it's so annoying. It's so annoying. But back to the Roman turn. Well, thankfully the Romans didn't draw anything that they could really use to wreck me in their activation phase. They were able to here you go, here's theirs. They're going to activate 2 units on the right, and they transfer their general to activate a couple more, so he's moved over to here. And yeah, I've done their movement. I did the morale test for their cavalry, who fled off the board, so they're gone. So that unit that was scooching along the back there has fled back across the river to their camp. Yeah, the 2 units of their battle line have peeled off to face their right, my left, to deal with my cavalry threat here now. I figured that was the most sensible thing, and it's in accordance with what I think their attitude should say. Otherwise, this unit couldn't really move up just yet. But the other unit to activate with this unit of Velites who are kind of exposed in the middle of my line, they've dashed forward a bit. They're going to throw some javelins, and then once they're done, they've got some movement left. They are skirmishers so they'll be retreating back to their lines, hopefully, well, towards their lines at the very least. Okay, so we'll do a little bit of shooting, and we'll do this combat here, and I'll let you know what goes on. Okay, and yes, my turn 2, well, their turn 3 actually concluded, and yes, thankfully it wasn't too bad for me. Yeah, they moved back. They didn't actually do any damage to me with their shooting, apart from these annoying Velites down here, causing a nasty 3 damage to my Carthaginian infantry. Oof, and then they ran away up here, a bunch of cowardly custards they are. Fortunately though, yeah, I was able to break their Velites in the combat, not taking any further damage from my standard Iberian infantry here. So yeah, that's seen off their skirmishers finally, and their units here did not do anything with their javelins against my cavalry. I am very thankful for that. Okay, it'll be over to me next, so see if I can get myself out of this pickle. My Carthaginian turn, I played mobilization, which I've been saving from my hand here, in order to try to maintain this envelopment I have of the Romans, whilst they're trying to take advantage of their little bit of disruption here. My Hispanic cavalry have rumbled in to the Hastati just here. Hastati aren't particularly heavy infantry in this. I don't know if that's how I'd portray them, but they're kind of medium infantry, and cavalry hopefully will be able to roll over them with the benefit of their hero to keep them safe, and I've enveloped the Hastati a little bit to the side too. The Numidian cavalry have actually decided to move around, and they're going to be javelining these principes just here, and yeah, the battle line has moved forward. We're trying to scooch the Carthaginian skirmishers out of the way to get them out of the way, and yeah, the Hispanic cavalry here are just taking 5 just to regroup themselves a little bit, and they have not been activated this turn. They will not be, but yeah, I've managed to shake off all the broken markers, which is good, thanks to the benefits of having Hannibal as my leader. He's got a nice big area of influence, so hopefully that will hold me in good stead for the bloodshed that is to come. And the results were a smattering of casualties among the various units. As you can see, 2 there from Numidians, and the charge did go home and did 3 damage to none on my on the Hastati there, but wasn't enough to cause the brave Romans to break, unfortunately for me. They have their general there, and yeah, they're quite high morale to start with, so they're good at soaking up damage. Thankfully they didn't do any to me in return. Yeah, it's taking out to be quite an interesting battle. We're going to go to the Romans. Hopefully they won't be able to do much to me in their turn. We'll see what they draw on their activation. Sadly for me, the Romans did actually get to activate a fair bit. They've advanced all of their Hastati frontline troops forwards into javelin range of my my units. They are actually in charge range, but at this point they prioritise moving into short range shooting range to soften me up before going in. If they were a lot more aggressive they might have charged, but such is the state of the game, that's not going to happen. Their skirmishers are kind of starting to fall back or even merge into other units. So this Velites unit was originally 2 Velites units, but the one that was running away joined, the remnants joined this one and then got sucked in. It's all on the very simply explained on the event card you draw and play for this AI, so really simple. Their principes over here with the general are actually turning around to javelin my Numidians, and this combat is ongoing, so guess we'll find out what the result of all this will be shortly. Okay, the wrath of the Romans has spoken. They showered me with javelins, smattering me along the line. Thankfully not in my high class Carthaginian spearmen, but yeah, otherwise it's been a bit hairy. These Carthaginians are hanging on for dear life. 1 hit to go and they somehow passed their leadership test, so they're okay, but they are 1 hit off of dying. the Iberians aren't particularly tough either. They were lucky not to take more damage. My Numidians have taken a little bit of damage up the top there. Thankfully, I managed to kill the Hastati in contact with my Hispanic cavalry. That hero marker really does make that unit a tougher prospect to damage. So, I mean, I've killed 4 Roman units so far. We are getting there. I do need to start. Well, I do need to keep this up though, because my army is a lot more brittle than theirs. I'm quite fortunate I haven't taken any actual unit losses yet, but that could easily change. It's time to go to my turn though, and I'm starting to feel the pinch in command cards as well. Well, it's do or die time, I figure here. My cards aren't, I can't just keep up this constant drain of command cards, so I played mobilization, where I could activate as many units as my general's leadership. Still Hannibal, still 8. So, I've activated a whole bunch. Not the Celt Iberians, they don't fancy charging a full unit of Hastati to their death. They'll just stay there to maintain some sort of battle line. And, but as you can see, I've enveloped a fair bit around here. I'm actually chucking the skirmishers in on each flank. Can do that, gets me those rear charges. Interestingly, when in combat in this game, you don't actually do one big combined combat. What I do is, for example, in this one where I've got my Sacred Battalion there and my Lusitani infantry, and against one unit of Velites, I would say, right, first of all I'm going to do my infantry, they fight the Velites with the modifiers for flanks, etc., and then I can then go, then my Sacred Battalion will fight them if they're still there, that is, of course. It's a very simplistic way of doing it. It might lead to some weird gamey sort of moments at some points or something, but it does work in practice. I've tried it, and it's a lot simpler than trying to work out multiple combats in several other game systems I can think of. But so as you can see, we've got some outflanking. Even these Hispanic cavalries come back into play. I figured it's better to use them or not, and I haven't taken any actual whole unit losses yet, so why not bring them back? They can worry the Romans a bit. And of course over here, their Roman general's unit has actually been charged on both sides by the Numidians and my hitherto victorious Hispanic cavalry heroes. I figured putting them both into this unit of heavy Roman infantry might be a winner. Kill their general too into the bargain. I guess we'll find out in just a moment. Well, things are really crunching away in the centre. On this flank of mine, I did pretty well. The Balearic Slingers went in, gained a hero token for their troubles, and between them and the Sacred Battalion has broken this Hastati unit, who are starting to flail and able to do much about it. But they only got broken. They didn't get routed or anything. Could have done with one more hit, would have killed them off, but was not to be. To be fair, the Romans actually did pretty well across the board with their card draws, and over here, for example, we managed to win the combat with the Iberian infantry. You only caused 1 damage. Again, lots of heroes popping up here, but the real heroes were these Velites for the Romans, who not only managed to gain a hero themselves, despite being outflanked and attacked to the rear, managed to win the combat against the Lusitani infantry, who miraculously passed their leadership test, but also get a draw with Hannibal's only unit of spearmen here. So that wasn't in the cards at all. But there you go. Them's the draws, I guess. Unfortunately for the Romans, however, their general did die in combat with my cavalry, but they did take some with them though, including being able to, due to card draws again, be able to break both units of my cavalry, who will now have to now try to regroup themselves somewhat before I can get them used again. But the Romans, they obviously formed a last stand around their general and took a hell of a lot more killing off than they fought to the last, I guess. And that's my cavalry very disordered now for the time being. We're actually quite close to breaking this Roman army altogether, but a lot of my units are showing some wear and tear, shall we say. So we'll see what happens in the Roman activation next. And once again, fate slaps me in the face with a wet fish, as the Romans drew out of their 3 cards, not only by the gods, to activate all of their units with +1 to their morale, but also they got Stampede, which I have to use as effectively as they can, and they sorry, I'll just let that focus in properly there. Yeah, I nominated one of their units in the centre, which caused both my units of victorious cavalry over here to take a morale test. The Numidians passed, so they're actually okay. However, my brave Hispanic hero cavalry have failed and fled, unfortunately, as they were scared away by Roman war dogs or whatever. And yeah, so they're going. I'm going to have to try and rally them because I kind of need all the units I can muster. Yes, the Romans otherwise continue to cause me great problems. They're basically turning around to face my units of cavalry, and they've got javelins, so they'll be able to throw them at my units. These velites here actually turned around. They charged into the extended parts of my Balearic slingers, and I read up that once they do that, the slingers take 1 point of damage for each marker that gets recalled to their unit, and they're dead. Unfortunately, they've only got a few hits. But they're what's the word? They are skirmishers, so they're not really designed for this kind of thing. So unfortunately, yes, in charging, the velites killed enough of the slingers to disperse them as an effective unit. So that sucks. That's my first unit gone. I suspect I may be facing a few more as of when the combats are done. Eek. Right, I have to do these in the order in which the Romans have the best chance of winning. So, but first of all, we'll do some shooting, and yeah. I'll report back in a bit, let's say that. Well, the bloodshed continues as both sides lumps out of each other. You see the game, well, you can't really tell what's going on from this angle, but yeah, if I zoom in, you can see there was a unit of Carthaginian cavalry there. They're gone. Those principes javelined them to pieces. The Numidians stood up to the barrage from this unit here. The Celt Iberians are now gone. The Hastati finished them off nicely with their javelins. Meanwhile, the brave unit of Velites did so well the previous turn, just got mangled and marmalized by the Carthaginian spearmen just here. Unfortunately for me and the Carthaginians, I wasn't able to continue this combat because an event card came up which prevented this combat from happening. So these Romans get to live to fight another day. I've actually lost a fair bit of my army myself now, and I'm running low. It's getting very close, actually, believe it or not. Both sides are about nearing half of their points value in units which have gone, which is game over in this battle. However, it's over to me now. I really need to rally these Hispanic cavalry, or I might just go myself. So we'll see what happens. Well, I got quite lucky. I'd managed to draw at the end of my last turn full mobilisation and could activate all of my units. So I'm trying it again just to pull something out of the fire here, because unfortunately, beginning my activation, I mean, I think there's a flight phase to do it at the end, but beginning or end, it makes a little difference in these circumstances. My other unit of Hispanic cavalry, who'd done so really well, have fled off the board. So my army is teetering on the brink of destruction in itself. One dodgy combat, then it's all gone. So I've gone all in, really. These combats still grinding away. My Iberian infantry, now heroised, are doing really well against these Hastati. My sacred battalion has charged into combat with the Principes, and they're being supported by the Numidian cavalry, who managed to shake off their broken status and charge in. These guys are really good, and I wonder they're so expensive in points. They're a solid leadership, got lots of hits and hit hard. So yeah, me likey them a lot. And yeah, so I'm hoping to polish off a couple of Roman units here, take them over their break point in terms of their points costs, and end this battle right now. Let's see. I'll tell you what happens in just a second. Wow, that's it. The dust is still kicking up fiercely, but nonetheless, it's kind of settled now in terms of who's rolling dice in the game. The game has just ended. Right, combats erupt along the line. I finished off this unit of Hastati just here, and unfortunately for me, the Hastati in the middle against my Iberian infantry managed to hold out despite getting the broken result. They just didn't take that extra point of damage. They did not run away. They passed their morale check on a natural roll of a 1. They needed to boy, and they're staying put. Unfortunately for me, the Numidians alas died to the Principes, despite attacking them in the side. That just there just weren't enough of them left to soak up the damage that came back their way, despite causing 4 points of damage and breaking the Principes, because they won the combat, technically. It wasn't... yes. Then I went to do the Sacred Battalion, who I thought might just be able to finish off these Roman dogs here. And of course, the card here that came up, strong defense, dealt off the top of the pile. Defender surprise attack with the strength of their defense in their ranks. No combat this turn meant that Hannibal did not get to mete out vengeance against the enemies who killed his Numidian cavalry. I get the feeling this game doesn't like me. Oh well. Yeah, so that finished the combats for the turn, and that is the end of the battle. I have suffered huge, grievous losses as the Carthaginians, and I've got gaps in my lines. Technically speaking, both sides have crossed over 50% of their points values in terms of casualties. I've lost all my cavalry, though, and they're expensive units, and the Romans have lost a lesser proportion than me. So technically speaking, it could be called a draw. And however, I think laurels go to the Romans for edging me over my loss threshold more than I've taken them over theirs. Although, I don't know, it's not that sort of complex a game, I'm not. But yeah, a draw at this point for the Trebia, for Hannibal, would be very much not a good result for him in historical terms. So yeah, I'm going to say that that'll take the L on that one. It's not a win for me by any means. And yeah, so as you can see, I've got my spearmen here. The line is more or less maintained by the Iberians, and I've wrapped around a little bit here. However, the Romans have got some, despite taking some damaged units, they've got some fresh units behind, and they're all heavy infantry. Well, the fresh ones are heavy infantry, and yeah, if we fought to the death, I presume I'd probably win. Probably, just maybe, I don't know. But yeah, they've caused some damage, and there is this marauding unit of Hastati here who are absolutely untouched, who could do me some grievous bodily if they went into the flank of one of my other units. So yeah, there's still lots. If it was a two-player game, there'd be lots to play for. But yeah, that's basically it for the game. It's a draw. I'm going to count it as not a win for me, definitely a loss. And yeah, that was great fun for me. I don't know how it was for you guys, just watching a bunch of cards moving around, but I really dig this game. It's going to be great for when I travel around and about. I can just set it up on a table and get the counters out, and off we go. And yeah, I really enjoy this, and there's a bit more nuance to it than I thought. The cards can be a little bit frustrating, especially if exactly the wrong one turns up, but them's the breaks. You get that in all sort of games, whether it's dice, cards, or whatever. I hope you enjoyed watching. I don't know if I'll do this again. I may well not. Obviously, this channel is more about showing off the spectacle of what you can do in a small games room on a smallish board, and this card game really does sort of give you a lot of variation. There's a lot of different unit types, a lot of different armies, and yeah, but obviously I have miniatures collections myself, and this is the comfort of my own home, so they probably will take precedence over that. Let me know, if you really enjoyed this and want to see more, please just let me know in the comments. I would be all about hearing it. If you just did not get it and it's a very boring, dull spectacle, you can let me know that too. If there was any rules I loused up, then please let me know that as well, okay? But yeah, my name's Shield War 100. This was great fun for me, and I don't think it was too historically inaccurate either. I don't think I played the ambush as well as Hannibal did, and yeah, I will see you next time.